There's a lot of space between you two. Okay, yeah. We are live here.
Good morning and welcome to High Voltage. Today is Wednesday, Hump Day, 18th September 2024. You are welcome to this very special edition of the program. My name is Mavis Atudume. And of course, this morning we are about to have a really important discourse, and we are going to be focusing on a rather ignored group of people when we have daily conversations about the run-ins and the goings on of our immediate environment, especially our country. This morning, we want to give a little bit of attention to the widows in our society, and we want to talk about their rights in Nigeria as regards inheritance, as regards treatment, as regards observation, as regards perception, and most importantly, their legal rights as people who have been in unfortunate situations in our society. And to have this great discourse with me is a solicitor and founder of Healing Hearts Widows Support Foundation Incorporation. And she's a really lovely lady. I'm just about to having a proper look at her right now. She looks really, really amazing, and you can feel the kindness in her nature. She is Gozie Udemezue. She is solicitor and founder, Healing Hearts Widows Support Foundation Incorporated. You're very welcome to the studio, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you sound lovely as well. You're very welcome, ma'am.
Thanks a lot.
I can understand why you have this foundation, but I would like to start off from that. I'd like to make it a little more intimate than boom.
Something
interview.
formal.
Thank you very much. So I'd like us to discuss this on the home front,
Yes.
right? So how did you come about the foundation?
Thank you so much. The foundation is 16 years old.
Wonderful.
But prior to the foundation, I worked for 5 years with a national nonprofit as a legal officer, and I left there as the head of legal department, WACOL. But
Oh, really?
yes, but prior to that as well, I grew up from the age of 8 without my mother,
Okay.
who died when I was 8.
Okay.
And upon her death, I was relocated from Enugu, where we lived, to Ogidi in Anambra State, where we come from.
Okay.
And I was placed under the care of a woman who was the wife of my father's uncle.
Okay.
And we called her Mamani. And funny enough, today, that's the name I bear, Mamani.
Mm.
So I lived with her, and I joined her to visit homes of widows.
Okay.
There's a particular widow that will never leave my memory. She was blind, childless, and totally ignored by the family.
Yes.
You know, the last time I was in Ogidi, I saw the dejection and the state of that compound, and I said to someone that it was what they did to that widow that is hitting back at them.
Oh, really?
Because she lived in a space that didn't have proper roofing, so pigeons pooed on her, rain dropped on her. So in the morning on my way to school, Mama would give me breakfast to deliver to her, and then I'll board the bus to school.
Okay.
And in the evening, both of us will go to her and clean her up. She was doing the cleaning up, I was observing. At times you will find that she's pooed on herself. And growing up in that village, which was something I never really liked, but you know, there's a pattern that God allows in your life for the future. I saw widows. At times you see a young woman pretty all over the place, and then suddenly she loses her husband, and you see her in black. Those times it was black. And a once fashionable woman will look, gloomy, dark. So funny enough, I grew up praying that I wouldn't be widowed when I got married. So all of these, and then I remember going to school. It was stealing, because when you take what is not yours, it's stealing. I would take from Mama Anye's rice, tomato, and all of those kind of food stuff, and deliver to a couple of widows on my way to school. I used to see
been
them.
at this job for a
Yes,
while.
and so she caught me one time and said, "Look, I'm also a widow. Get their own and bring home." So I think it's something that I grew into. But what changed this whole thing into a proper structure? Two things. First of all, my husband said to me, "You are always taking out money from an account we run together and giving to widows." That he keeps seeing strange names as recipient. He said, "At this rate, one day you will give out our property. Why don't you register a foundation? I'll support you." And he supported until he died. And secondly, in 2005, I was nominated by the U.S. State Department through the consulate in Lagos to participate in a program, International Visitors Leadership Program. Then I was working with WACO. At the program in 2006, I remember the last day, and they said to us, "What do you want to change?" Because they won't spend all that money on you. It's a high-level program, and then you just go home. So I remembered what I listened to at the Martin Luther King Center in Atlanta. There's a space where you stand and watch Martin Luther King, all his speeches. And one of the speeches, he said, "Turning community concerns into citizens' action." So I thought to myself, what were my concerns then? I didn't like the way widows were treated. And then young girls, because I grew up as a young girl without a mom, faced all manner of stupid, silly things, you know. And I wanted also to reach out to young girls. So I wrote a concept note at the end of that trip. And I remember that our English instructor, Cynthia Wilson, at the San Francisco airport, she placed something in my palm and closed my palm and said, "I love your concept." And said, "I love your concept. You will go places. I will always stand by you." And this is a white woman in her 60s who didn't even understand widowhood in Africa. And she said, "Don't open your palm until you cross security." And of course, there's no way I would open my palm. So when she left, I realized that that was $100 bill. And when I got home, the first thing I did after some time was to reach out to young girls in my village high school. The village high school I attended, I started a program there. And then in 2008 was the first time we did anything that has to do with widows. We had a medical outreach. There was no plan. We were just putting things in place. And so from that 2008 July till date. So at times people think, oh, maybe because her husband is dead, that's why. No, the foundation started formally in 2008. My husband died 5 years after. So this is me. I breathe it, I eat it, I wake up to it. And anything that has to do with widows, the spiritual angle, financial aid, medical, all sorts.
Because we're about to dive into that. I wanted some of this history from you so that it would give our listeners and you know, a side view of where you're coming from, where your vision is coming from. So now that we understand that you have a very strong background, you know what you're doing, you understand what you're doing. Let's dive into widows now. First of all, how do you observe the treatment of widows around here?
It was worse than it was. Now it's a lot better because the widows...
Is it better now?
Yes, it's better now because the widows are now asserting themselves. Initially, we focused on telling the society how to treat widows. Now we flipped it in 2018 and focused on building up the widow to assert herself and demand how she wants to be treated. We started working on the widows to know that they are humans and that they shouldn't take any form of treatment. So it's two-pronged. The foundation can do all the legal stuff all of those kind of stuff. On my own part, I launched a campaign, widowed, not withered. You are widowed, but you are not withered.
Where do I think I've seen that before?
So it's a hashtag
I think
that,
I've seen something like
that we've
before.
used for, this is the 6th year now.
Okay.
So, but the treatment is much better now. There's the state widowhood law, quite all right.
Okay.
But that if the people you made the law for are ignorant of the law, it's of no use.
All right, let's begin to break it down.
Yeah.
Don't forget that we are live on YouTube at High Voltage News, so you can just go to your YouTube social right now and type in High Voltage News. That's in case you're not already subscribed to our YouTube page. Go to High Voltage News right now. We're streaming live. I have with me Mrs. Gozie Udemezue. She is solicitor and founder of Healing Hearts Widows Support Foundation Incorporated. She also spent some time doing some good work with WACO. And if you know anything about WACO, you would understand that she's been doing some good work for some time. And she just gave us a foundation and a background of where she's coming from. She has, from a very tender age, observed widowhood in Nigeria, and she has turned that into a helping system for these women. We're going to find out a lot from her because according to what she just said, there's been an improvement. I'm going to ask her to break that down. But you can also call into the studio live or send us SMSs and WhatsApp messages. That's to join the conversation, of course. And if you have any questions for her, any things you do not understand, you are also allowed to call in and ask those questions. Remember to keep your comments and contributions simple, clean, and civil so that we do not break any laws. You can call 0706 048 5853. Also, you can call 0915 570 8347. And you can be able to join the conversation this morning. Barrister, there is something that I want to understand. You said that there's been progress. So you mean that some of those weird things we used to see, someone my age, I got to see a fair share of mistreatment of women. There's the shaving of the hair, the denial of properties and kids, and things like that. Are you saying that some of those practices are nowhere to be found?
No. I didn't say they are nowhere to be found.
Okay.
They are still there, but not as much as it used to be. For instance, the shaving of the hair is not as it used to be done. There are churches who have stepped in, like in Anambra State, I know an Anglican diocese who don't allow the shaving of the hair.
They don't
allow it. So if you are a member, you don't do it. There are churches who will not require you to wear white.
Okay.
Now, I witnessed the shaving of the hair of widows in the 80s.
You saw the thin line?
Yes, because I used to attend funeral with Mama, and she would say to me, sit here, don't move. And me, I'm not the person you say don't do, because I'll be curious enough to do, to know why. So when she said don't do, once she left, I'll sneak in and watch. They use blade, some local blade, and as they use razor, and those widows have cuts. You see blood. I saw it by myself, you know. But now,
so much
aggression, and then I remember hearing them talk down on the widows in my language.
Why do you think that is? Why?
You know, some of them are envious. You know, some of them
envious.
Yes, because for instance, a widow who used to be glamorous and all of that, when they shave her, you hear them those days say, "Hey, your husband is dead. I'll come and start doing that shakara again." You know, those kind of things. Hey, keep your head properly. They'll push the person and push the person. I saw that. That was what made me to start praying as a child, asking God. I didn't want to be widowed. Now, I have also attended funerals and stayed in during the shaving of the hair of widows. At times I get invitation, oh, this one will be buried so and so, this man will be buried, the wife is under threat, this, that. I might need to be there. Now, they don't do all of that using razor. Because it's dangerous for a diabetic person. What about the cut? Will it ever heal?
Will they heal?
And then those days, they will have something like a local sharp thing in those days, they will use it for different people. You can't do it now because of HIV. So in that regard, yes. Do they still evict widows? Yes. Do they still dispossess them? Yes. But now widows are smarter. And some men also are becoming smarter. Let me give you an example. One of the major things my work with Wako did for me, apart from that exposure that he gave me and the knowledge that I acquired, was my husband being, what will I call it now? He was sensitized because I shared the stories with him. At times I'll come back from the police station and say to him, oh, see what happened to this widow. They took her house, blah, blah, blah. And one day, he didn't tell me ahead of time. I was in the office. A young man came and said he was from this bank. When he left, another person came from this bank. The third one from this bank. The same thing, that Oga said we should add you a second signatory. And then I noticed that he didn't fill up the mandate. So I quickly filled either to sign. And later on, he said, I knew you were going to do either to sign because your eyes are too open. Now, years down the line, when I got home, I said, why did you do it? He said, with all these things that, with all of the stories that, no, he didn't want anything to happen to him. And then anybody will come after the children and I. Years down the line, he died.
I'm so sorry about that.
No, thank you.
Sorry about
thank
it.
you.
But I have to mention something. What he did, that action that he took, would you say that it offered you protection?
Oh, yes, it did.
It offered protection.
And that's an aspect also that in 2025, I'm designing a program where we used to do that, but we stopped because we didn't have funding anymore.
Okay.
We want to pay advocacy visits to men groups in churches, clubs where men go to, have conversation with men, so that they know how to protect their families in their absence. In their absence. While we are doing that, we also balance it up with letting the women know that when you are giving access to those kind of things, you don't abuse it.
Okay.
Because for all the times that I was signatory to any of those accounts, I never bothered with them because I was making my own money.
Okay. This is very
so it's very important to have it balanced. But things are improving. The widows are more conscious. And it's not in those days that women were oliaku.
Okay.
Now women are pataku. They also make money. And
well.
in some homes, it's actually the woman that is providing in some homes. So things are different. Now, in those days, I witnessed in my village a woman who had to drink bathing water. The water, the hand of the husband. Yes, and when I was in my other organization, we had a case too of such a woman who did that, and they said she was going to die after 1 year. Both of them didn't die. Now, we haven't received any report that such a thing. Yeah, so it's important because most times you hear, widows these days. It's important to mention all of this. People are becoming more aware, and families are also stepping in for their daughters. Assuming I have a sister and she loses her husband, and anybody wants her to do all those kind of stuff, no.
It's not going to happen. Going to step in.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So from the look of things, there's been improvement. That is what you're saying. That means.
And it could get better.
It could get better. Okay. So let's get into some of these rights that these widows have now that they are probably exhibiting, which is probably what is keeping them away from experiencing some of these things. Can you share some of these rights under the law of the
yes.
Nigerian allowed law?
Yes.
Can you share some of them?
Widows are human beings, right?
Oh, very much so.
Yes. And basically every human being has fundamental rights. Okay. In 1999 Constitution, actually, you know what I did doing this job? I realized that I needed to be more knowledgeable in law, especially in human rights law. My first degree is law. So I had to spend my money to take a master's degree in law from University of London so that I'll be deep into it because everything is centered on that law, on that human rights. Okay. Now, if you look at all the international conventions, the Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Widows, CEDAW, you come down to Africa region.
So this is like a worldwide
yes, crisis. There are laws protecting. Yeah, and you come down to Africa, there's African Charter on Human and People's Rights. And then there's a protocol to that law, which is the Maputo Protocol of 2003, which provides specifically, I think either Article 20 or 23, provides particularly mentions widows. Now bring it down to Nigeria. There's a 1999 Constitution, which in Chapter 4 lists all the rights. Okay. Now, it's merged. I want to merge it with the Enugu State Widowhood Law. Okay. Some of the states have their laws. Now, when you think about right to life, which is section 33, okay. Right to life, and you think about things that they do to some widows, which violates those rights. Okay. Asking somebody to sleep in the same room with a dead body that has stayed in the morgue, okay. You don't know the chemicals they use to clean it, it's violation of that right. Because let me read out what it says briefly. Every person has a right to life, and no one shall be deprived intentionally of his life, except in execution of a sentence. So it's only the court that can say, oh, we sentence you to death. Okay. But you find in some places, indirectly, they don't know that it's violation of those rights. When you tell a widow, don't do this, don't do this. Years ago, there was a case of a young widow in Sokoto who brought back her husband to bury in one of the eastern states. They kept her in a house, in a farmhouse, and she was breastfeeding. They took the baby and kept with them, kept her in the farmhouse, and said that's the place of mourning. So in the morning, they will take food and put in a clay pot for her to eat from. And it won't be washed. They will put the lunch there, they will put the dinner there.
I'm sorry, Barrister. Why do you think our custom, why do you think because I believe these are mostly customary and traditional?
Well, it's tradition that is patriarchal from beginning.
Do you think it's because you just mentioned that they don't think there's anything wrong with
Yeah, they don't, because they call it tradition. And then what about the widowers? A man loses the wife, and you find a woman even rubbing his back on the night of the wake keep. And before you know it, he's remarried. And they tell you, oh, for the person to somebody to take care of the children. So
why is it particular for women?
Well, that's how the society is structured. Are you Igbo?
Oh, I am.
The Igbo society is structured and patterned to work against the women. That was how it was. I don't want to go into all of that history because I did that as a course. But let me say something to you. The society treats the woman as less of a man. If not, the men should also do the same thing that the women do when they lose.
It's all loss.
You know,
It's all loss.
So right to life, when we expect a woman to cry every 5 a.m., they will tell you, oh, you have to wail once it's 5 a.m. And they think that it's all in that exhibition of crying at that point. My husband died 11 years ago. I have had 2 children graduate. 2 engineers, they are doing very well. Each time I visit them, I find a space under the shower and I just cry. The last time I said to my daughter, I wish your daddy was here. So there's always a reason to cry. The day they will get married, oh, of course, I will feel that way. The day my daughter graduated at UNN, I had sunglasses all through because I had tears in my eyes. So if somebody wants a widow to do all the crying in one day to prove that she's sad, oh, goodness me. It makes no sense. So right to life is very important. And then all of the accusation without proof. Then there's the right, entitled to rights of dignity of his person. That is the most violated. I think it's section 34. Each individual is entitled to respect for the dignity of his person, and accordingly shall not be subjected to inhuman, degrading treatment, torture, and all of that. A lot of widows face that. Because number one, even the way they will want to treat a widow, especially in some communities, you have to sit on the floor. You know, all those things we do will never bring the dead back. And we also have to know that these women need to be alive to train the children. Let me tell you, if it was just me, I would have remarried long ago. Oh, yeah, definitely. I would have found myself a husband and even married the person by myself. You know, but then I was left with 3 children to take care of. The first one in university, First year, in short, her matriculation was the morning after her father died. She didn't know the father was dead. So she was calling him to, hey, Daddy, I've got into from microbiology to engineering, her second matriculation. And she called me, where is Daddy? I said, well, where he is, you can't reach him. Don't worry. I had to now rigmarole and all of that. And then my son was in JS3. And then the third one was in the womb. So all of that responsibility, we need to be sane. We need to be left alone to carry the burden. I work with widows every day. There's no day I wake up. I woke up this morning at about 3 a.m. I have counseled 2 widows in Abuja. I have drafted a program we have next week to get widows enrolled under the National Insurance Scheme. I have done every day, and I know that it's tough.
It seems we don't give enough credit to women like you.
It's tough.
You people are changing lives, because this particular conversation used to be a huge conundrum some years ago, but it seems it's reducing. Now, I want to know if the government is helping in any of this. Is the government helping people like you, other NGOs, other foundations? What do you think?
I don't know about the other NGOs, but we've never received help from government. I know that this law is out there by the government, and we have never asked for support from government, because we have people who provide support for the work we do.
But what about all the Ministry of
the Ministry of Women Affairs? Yes. I know they handle a lot of cases on widows. If you partner with them, they will do all those cases. They provide free support and all of that. But like having the executive arm of government to fund, no. And we're not expecting that. But what we need...
Why is that, ma'am? Because we as a country...
Maybe they are providing.
Okay.
Maybe they are providing for the society. And if they start funding non-profits, there are too many non-profits. Which one would they fund? And it's non-governmental. So we're actually not demanding any support from them. But what we will want to happen is for widows to be bold enough to file lawsuits when their rights are violated. Because this Enugu State Widowhood Law, I have not read any judgment out of this. Because most times when you want to go to court, they will come and beg you and say, don't.
Oh, really?
Let's settle out of court. And they settle. But if there's a scapegoat, though the penalty is a bit watery, but at least it's still something. It's better than nothing. Now, going back to the rights, there's a right that talks about personal liberty of the widow. There are places they will tell the widow, you must stay in the village after the burial for 1 month with the children, even when the school is in session. That's a violation of our right to personal liberty. You see, some of these things we do, a woman who honors her husband will honor him in life and in death. You don't have to mandate. There are things my husband used to ask us to do in the house that I maintain till today. One of them is, once it's 6 o'clock, don't bring in laundry from outside.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Is there a particular reason?
He said he used to be so afraid of snakes, because where we live had a lot of snake issue in those days when it wasn't built up. So I find myself now saying to them, don't bring in any laundry, 6 p.m. And then I still kept his ashtray. There are some of his, I still have his traditional ozo, you know, that big basket they carry with all the beautiful feathers. So I know how we honor him. We hosted a medical mission in Port Harcourt where he had his, he went to school for his master's degree.
Okay, so you think
to honor him,
the people are expecting a great display of grief?
But it mustn't be when that burial is being done, and you don't have to force a widow to do that. They know how.
Okay, so this is
they know the memory.
This is a psychology that people have, that they want widows.
Oh, you have to look drabby. And I tell widows, they know me. If you are coming to my office to see me, you better dress well. I used to keep powder and comb, lipstick. You must look good. I'll chase you out. You go outside, look well before you come in. You know why? The society expects you to mourn forever. Society expects you to dress down. Society expects you to look gloomy, so that to prove to them that you are grieving. What about when you are in your bedroom all alone? What about when the bills of these children are on your desk? You need to pay. No, I didn't used to know how much it cost to lighten up the compound. I didn't used to know how much we paid on NEPA bills. Now, when I pass to enter the house, I look at the meter every day. And then I'm shouting at everybody, switch off the light. Now, the light that comes downstairs from my bedroom is totally off, even this morning as we were leaving.
Same here.
You understand what I mean? So if he was alive, there were bills I've never gone to any mechanic workshop. I never bought a car until he died. That was when I said, putting money together to do. You understand? Yes. So nobody needs to tell me about his memory. The other day, I took his picture that I really love. He took that picture in his 30s. I placed it in my office in such a way that I could see it. You know, but when they want us to show grief by dressing down, looking drabby, a lot of widows do that, not because they want to.
Okay.
But they don't want their in-laws.
Expectations.
Like there's a way you dress up. And your in-laws will say, maybe she killed her brother. Meanwhile, every man that dies is killed by the wife.
Except when it's the woman who
Except when it's the woman. A woman came to me one time, I was crying in the office. They said she killed her husband. Okay. I said, but you killed him now. She was looking at me. I said, you killed him. I am the chairman of the killers. Come and sign up, Ojare. Bring your development levy. You know why? Because that's the accusation, even by fellow women. Women will throw it at a widow so that she will feel bad. So we are raising a crop of widows that will even say it to you before you say it to them.
Okay, we will be right back with that. And when we come back, you are free to call in and ask Barrister Gozie Udemezue any questions that you may have, anything you don't understand, for your relatives, for your friends, or for yourself as well. Or in case you might want information, you can call in. We just need to go on a quick commercial. We will be right back. Stay tuned. All right.
Doing great. Should have increased that so that this can get out.
More?
After that, you're coming back, right? Come back right after that, please. Come back right after.
Vote 104.3 FM.
Welcome back. This is High Voltage, and of course we have been talking widows' rights in Nigeria with Barrister Gozie Udemezue. She is solicitor and founder of the Healing Heart Widows Support Foundation Incorporated. She's been at it for more than 15 years now, and she's had experiences back in the years with WACOL and working with widows. Great history that she has, and of course it's led her to this good work she's been doing with the widows in our society. Barrister, I have more questions for you as regards the protection of these widows, because you've mentioned all the improvements that's been made over the years with widows, their perception and the way society sees them. First of all, do you think there's something we as a society can do to probably change our mindset as to how we perceive widows?
Yes, a lot. Number one, the mindset of the people towards the widows needs to be changed. Okay. I have a couple of widows who are caterers. Okay. After their husbands died, one is in her 60s, the other one much younger, maybe 39, and they were still in white, a couple of their clients cancelled the booking they made and asked them to refund their money. That is bad luck for these widows to cook for their events while still wearing white. That's just an example. We need to change that perception. Number two, still on perception of mindset, landlords in this town, especially Ababa, they need to leave widows alone. If you rented accommodation to a man and his wife, and the man dies, except the widow is not able to continue paying rent, she is not bad luck. She can still continue to pay rent. So we've had cases where they say, oh, I didn't give you accommodation, it was your husband. Move. Number three, we need to begin to love some of these widows. If you want to help a widow, you don't have to sleep with her to be able to help her. Don't tell her to send her oldest daughter to come for school fees. And then you start wanting to sleep with this daughter. Or you want to sleep with a widow to be able to help her. What if the widow has any of these diseases and you pick it and go and give to your wife? Especially married man. I don't want to mention anything.
What is this
but in
perception?
This town, it's too much.
What is the perception?
You know, so they need to change that perception, because it could be anybody's wife tomorrow. Then we also need to, in churches, it's not enough to preach, you know, to widows. If you have a widowed member in your church, extend help to her. Because some of the widows we've taken care of, at times we take a record of where do you worship? What type of help are you getting from there? It's not much. It's not much. Now, if you have a widow in your employment, please make sure that you don't pay her. Is she not just a widow? Pay her what you are paying other people and ensure that she's all right.
So society expects her to diminish completely because her husband is no more.
Yes. And then let's leave the widows alone. Okay. When you meet someone, somebody said that to me one time, hey, Goz, hey, you don't ever look like a widow. Wow. So I told her, you don't ever look like a married woman.
Oh, dear God.
And then you will find somebody introduce you. Oh, meet Goz, my friend, she's a widow.
What is that?
I mean, so I want her, I said, if you say it next time, I will introduce you in a very scandalous manner that you wouldn't like. You know, we can love them without diminishing them. And we should allow them. Let me give you an example. There's a program we host every year. We call it Valentine's Eve Dinner. We find the best of hotels. We've used Best Western. We've used Born Sunshine. We wear red, all red, glossy. Some of the widows, excuse me, they go for makeup, you know. Just one day, because we carry so much. And now when we post it on Facebook, I've had men, married men, who came to my inbox to tell me that because your husband gave you high life, you are now exposing these widows. That money you are using to go and feed them, why don't you use it and pay school fees? Meanwhile, these widows pay their own bills. To go, just have a day. We bring in our office photographer. He takes all the pictures. We just have lunch, talk. I minister to those that need to minister to.
So the idea is for them to remain small.
To remain small. And then when a widow achieves, they'll start looking for the man who she slept with to have it. And it's not just men accusing widows. It's women also. Through all manner of things. I'm not saying that every widow is perfect. There are widows who are also messing up. Of course. There are widows who go into some marriages and scatter the marriage and grab the man and run. You understand what I mean?
That is a real thing.
It's a real thing. But not all widows. So we shouldn't all be perceived in that manner. I also want communities to begin to be proactive when it comes to widows' issues. Because the energy the widow exhibits trickles down to the children. When a widow is so subdued, the children grow up with low self-esteem because they are not getting the right energy.
But why do you think
from
the society doesn't pay any attention to the kids at all? Because I mean, if someone that's close to me loses their husbands, I'll be worried about the children, how they are going to sustain.
I think you know what
this treatment.
You know what the Bible says about visiting the son of the father of the, you know, a lot of people do that. They visit the sin, in quote, of the woman. So, like in some, yes, on the children. There are some families, they have never asked after their brothers' children. And when you ask them, they will say, when their brother was alive and they visited the house, that their brother's wife gave them one meat. Some silly reasons. Some will say, their brother's wife killed their brother. No proof. So, all manner of excuse. I am not defending any widow, including myself. I am not defending me. I am not defending any widow. No matter how much you dislike a woman, a widow, what about your brother's children, your blood? And then these children go to school, they become big, and then you expect them to identify with you. So you see the cycle, it continues.
I mean, one would think that for societies and groups of people to come out and make this a thing, make it a law, there are traditions on how to, make these women, suppress them. You would think that a society that makes it a law would pay consideration to the children. So
if they were doing that, we won't have. There was a day last week that the total amount of fees we paid out was 1,163,000.
I believe you.
In just one day.
This is cool.
I asked them to give me the break. In just one day, we have not calculated for this term.
For the term.
For the term. So there are families who take care of their brother's children. We know families who pay fees, support the woman, but not as many as compared to. Because we talk to the women on informal basis. We have our conversation. We have prayer time. We have blessed widows in different parts of Nigeria. Every Saturday, they come together to pray. I attend most of those prayers. It's on WhatsApp. I listen in Anambra, Port Harcourt, Abuja, Lagos, Imo. When they share testimonies, from the testimonies, some of these widows would have been all right if they didn't have children.
Right.
But with this, we have a widow with 7 children. We have another one 6. We have another one, this number of widows. On my way to this place, a widow called me. I said, hello. She said, she wants to tell me that her daughter has delivered. She wanted to say something about money, but the way I boned, she picked it and she said, okay. When I get home,
good time.
Yeah, it's not a good time because me, I have my own bills. Yes. But when I get home, there has to be a support because the daughter got pregnant by somebody who said he was no more interested in marrying her, and so it's just 2 of them. And this is a widow we've supported business over the years. We provide eye medication for her so that she won't go blind from cataract. And she earns 10,000 naira a month. I want to address some churches. If you hire a widow to work as cleaner or gardener, stop paying them 10,000, 15,000, 20,000. And it's not like you give them support. It's not like you give them clothes and all of that. A lot of churches do that. One day I will go on my Facebook wall and call them out by name. Rather than hire them, because these are rich churches. How can you be paying a widow 10,000, 20,000?
They're probably working for God,
Well,
that's usually what it is. But anyways, I want us to protect these women right now. So I want you to drop perhaps tricks and hacks and what they should look out for, what they could do.
We call it coping strategies.
Please help.
We call it coping strategies. Number 1, don't leave God alone. Don't leave God alone. For me, that's very key. Number 2, believe in yourself. You are only widowed. You are not widowed. Widowhood is not the end of the world. You came with a purpose. Okay, imagine if I shut down in 2013 when my husband died. I wouldn't have been able to be out there with my team, providing all the support we've given you over the years. Now, there's a purpose for which God created you. Don't disappoint God. Discover that purpose. You could shut down for a while, like I did the entire 2013. I couldn't do anything. I was so destabilized. But from 2013, we restarted, and we haven't looked back since then. There's a reason why God brought you to earth. And there must be somebody somewhere who needs your support, in as much as you also need other people's support. Number 3, please take care of yourself. I am big on that. Know when to shut down and create boundaries. Everybody mustn't have access to you. Everybody mustn't have. They can term you snobbish, whatever. That's their business. Create time for you. In the midst of taking care of your children, there's what I call self-care. You can go and buy suya at Chim Avenue and eat it alone. Nobody said you must share it one bit with the children. There must be times you do you. You know, go to the spa if you can afford it. Go and take care of yourself. Because if you die, these children will get scholarship and they will become big people. Me, I'm not dying, no. I must take care of myself. Number 4, which is very important, mind your circle. I wrote a book on this, Widowhood Redefined. Mind your circle. Listen, if you cannot do Ashebi, you cannot do Ashebi. After my husband died, I shut down on everything Ashebi. If you bring Ashebi purple, I'll go to my wardrobe and find purple and wear, because I was training children and I was flying back and forth with a sick child for treatment. So the problem is you want to live like the Joneses. You are not the Joneses. So don't live like them. Mind the circle you move in so that it won't be that circle that want you, you know, to wear gold. If you don't have gold, you don't have gold. You understand? Widows, you know me. You know, some of you listening to this program, you know how we roll. Be real to yourself and then love people. Don't pour out the toxicity they are giving to you into other people. You know, just love people and trust God and build yourself. That's my final point. Personal development is very important. If you are still where you were when your husband died, then I need to ask you questions. Is it easy? No. I left school for 1 year after my husband died. I had to go back to school. And instead of graduating early 2014, I graduated in late 2015. And I would have had my PhD by now, but I am still writing my PhD thesis. The important thing is that I am on that purpose and I must get there. Wow. So don't lose that hope. Give yourself hope. And make sure you belong to a church. Because going to church is very key. You go out there, have a community of believers who you can relate with. You know why I'm telling you this? Because for 3 years, I refused to go to church. And I found myself back in a church. And this is one of the best things that has happened to me in almost 1 year. Forget about how churches treat widows. It's not all the churches. This one I go to doesn't treat widows anyhow. Find a place of worship. Find trusted people. And stop sleeping with other people's husbands.
Oh my goodness.
If you want to remarry,
like
please remarry. If you want to remarry, get yourself a single man and remarry. Leave other people's husbands alone. Thank you.
Great warning. I hope you have heard from Barrister Gozie Udemezue herself. She is solicitor and founder of the Healing Hearts Widows Support Foundation Incorporated. Do you want to tell us where people can find you, perhaps reach you, women who probably are listening to us this morning who want access to you? Is there a way?
Yes, we have an office at Brown and Brown Crescent, number 24B, Brown and Brown Crescent. And our phone number, the official number, but please don't call the number to profess love. The number is 080 33 28 50 60. At times when we put out our numbers like this, you receive all manner of messages. So please, it's only for widows. And we cater for widowers and orphans as well, yes.
Okay. That is good information.
080 33 28 50 60. Mostly on WhatsApp. If you call it on normal line, you might not reach it. But on WhatsApp, is out there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Barrister, for coming to the show this morning. You can get this interview and a lot more on High Voltage News on YouTube. And you can also call Vote FM in case you want to be a part of something like this. You can also follow us on Facebook at Vote 1043 FM.